From today till the 21st, the Love Legacy Dignity Social Enterprise will run 10 online workshops on the impacts of COVID-19 and how to cope with it. Love Legacy Dignity is a social enterprise that delivers conversations such as death and cultural norms. We're joined now by the co-founders, renowned media manager Mapi Mhlangu and executive coach Helena Dolny. A very good morning to both of you ladies.
Good morning, how are you?
Thanks for making the time. These are very heavy conversations you want to dig into. Perhaps let's start with how this project came about. Mapi, let's start with you.
So I have lived with death in different aspects, in different dimensions of my life. I've lived with death in the family, I've lost a mother, and I have lived with death in the form of being in a newsroom where we constantly at times putting plans for people before they died. Sometimes we appear to be more organized than the families themselves. So I know the kind of discussion and the conversation that are not happening pre the event and that should happen. My mother died of cancer, so we had a delayed death, and she left us as a family with a gift of actually having a conversation about her wishes and how she would like to be remembered and how she would like to be and her legacy. And what that meant, it meant that when the time came for her to leave us, there was no family conflict afterwards. Everybody was at peace with the state of the relationship and with her wishes. So we didn't have to overcompensate in terms of how we put together her send-off because we didn't know what she would like. So she was so specific. In fact, I still have a small notebook that she used to write down the details of how she would like her funeral to be conducted, from the people she would like to speak, to the kings, as well as the dyers. I mean, she was even specific to the extent of saying, no dessert in my family, in my funeral.
Yeah. Helena, you're an executive coach. You're also an author, but you're also known as the former wife of Joe Slovo. You've written a book about this. What about your personal journey? What life experiences brought you to the point where you wanted to start such a project?
So I think that one of the things that strikes me is that my husband was sick for 4 years before he died. And I know I was a much younger woman, but what's astonishing for me is the conversations that we didn't have. And then since then, as an executive coach, I've come across a lot of people who've had to make sudden decisions in their lives. And I've also had personal experiences of people dying suddenly. So what strikes me is that we need to be very ready to be clear about our health decisions, and that we don't always get to speak for ourselves, that we need somebody else to speak for us. And then the other thing that astonishes me is that people don't leave their affairs in order. And 86% of South Africans die without having a valid will in place. So at this time of COVID virus, then it seems more important than ever before. My daughter's living in New York. 300,000 people have died in New York. So our first workshop is about self-affirmation and feeling strong as you possibly can psychologically at this time of stress. And then the health decisions, and then affairs in order. And then lastly, very, very importantly, what do we do in terms of ritual at this time when we can't gather together physically?
Yeah, of course, that ritual conversation has totally changed at this time of fighting the virus. But Mapi, what appetite is there for this kind of interaction, and who's your target market?
I think we are looking at the issue of mortality and death. It's so universal that we found that with our workshops, we're not only dealing with South Africans. We're getting people from all over the world. So it's a global audience, but it's anyone who really wants to make sure that they leave their affairs in order, that the discussions are had with family, that we call those discussions love affirming, in a sense that you actually get to take stock of your life and reflect on your relationship and look at who you want to be and how are you going to get there. One of the things, for example, that we're finding with people that that have signed up for the cause is that it's actually not only about COVID. COVID had come with double or triple grief. There are people, for example, who have their parents at old age home who cannot visit their parents. There are people who are dying, but not dying of COVID, but still people cannot participate in collective mourning. So we really are trying to have a conversation with everyone that say, what is the good that has come out of this bad, terrible situation? And how can we use this current crisis, which really has given us an opportunity to look closely at our own mortality? How can we use this current crisis to look at rituals that no longer serve us and to come out with new rituals that are authentic, that really take into consideration these times, but also that are designed to make sure that you and only you are remembered the way that you would like to be remembered.
Have you been able to engage with some sort of latest data in terms of what the impacts have been on people who haven't been able to freely participate in the process of saying goodbye to their loved ones, Helena?
I think it's very difficult not to say goodbye. Yesterday, a friend of mine who I have known for 40 years died in Rome, and normally I would have seen her at the end of April. And to not say goodbye is extremely difficult. So then it calls upon us to what is our creativity. In sitting vigil this weekend, there were people who were lighting candles. So we have to be creative and find other ways. And we can't wait until we can get together. That's too far away. It's not a matter of 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So to say we'll have a memorial when we can get together is too far away. So can we use whatever technology we have to create something online? And one of the biggest gifts that you can give to people who are not as well off as you at this moment is to buy minutes for them, to buy airtime, to give them data, because some of us are more privileged than others in that we have more access to technology. So helping people to create whatever they can, exchanging photographs, knowing that all at the same time you are singing that person's favorite hymn, knowing that all at the same time, at a particular time of the day, that you are saying prayers. I think all of these can be helpful in terms of not at supporting your grief, not putting it on hold for after COVID. We need to support ourselves now as best as we possibly can.
So, Mapi, how will the workshops starting today pan out, and how can the public take part?
So people can take part by visiting our website, which is www.lovelegacydignity.com. What normally happens on the first day of the workshop is really we give people an opportunity to reflect by using a number of tools. We use tools that really look at your roles, your important roles in your life, how much effort you're putting in those roles, and the level of satisfaction that you're getting from those roles, which actually gives one an opportunity to then do a gap analysis, looking at where they are living their best life and where they need to put more effort and where they need to live with more intention. We then look at issues of forgiveness, because in us reflecting, we also reflect on our relationship, and we look at what forgiveness is and what forgiveness isn't. And then we give people a set of tools. And one of the tools that we use is actually Archbishop Desmond Tutu's book on forgiveness, which really is quite poignant and very profound in terms of your journey towards forgiving someone, or towards releasing relationship that you see them as toxic. So the first day is really about reflection. In reflecting on your life, we also give opportunity to people to affirm themselves. One of the biggest thing that we're realizing is that you have over 264 South African families who suddenly doesn't have the comfort of rituals. Things like going to mortuary and bathing a body have been taken away from them. Things like taking what we call in Zulu, ihlahla, to go to the place of death and take the spirit of the person. So if the person had died in hospital, you suddenly don't have that option. So one of the things that we look at how can you support the loved ones who are going through this, who are far, and how can you deal with your anxiety, and how can you remain centered in this time where we all have relatives around the country and some people around the world, and you are worried about their level of exposure to the coronavirus, and you are worried about the possibility of you not being there for them should anything happen. So we look at how to even improve relationship now, so that if anything happens, you at least have had a conversation with the people. One of the big things that we encourage, for example, is writing of letters. That, okay, you have an opportunity, not everyone has data. Isn't time now that we go back and look at possibility of writing letters to people where we think there's unfinished business and we require some form of forgiveness, or you want to say something, or you want to leave people with that kind of legacy of having something written down that they have a physical thing in the absence of touch and other physical contacts.
Very important conversations, and thank you so much for making the time this morning, ladies. Helena Dolny and Mapi Mhlangu, that conversation you can join it on lovelegacyddignity.com. Is it .com or .co.za, Mapi?
It's .com.
lovelegacyddignity.com. Thanks again for the conversation.